Welcome back to episode 3 of Downfall Mall. Last week we added a rather industrial looking chow mein chow and Hellion ring, whilst this week we'll be adding our first coaster. Terribly overwhelming. Wouldn't it be so much better if I had a French accent? Hang on, let's try it.
Welcome back to episode 3 of Downfall Mall. Last week we added a rather industrial looking chow mein chow and Hellion ring, whilst this week we will be adding our first coaster. Terribly overwhelming.
Okay, that obviously wasn't me, but it definitely sounded better. Oh well, you'll have to put up with me until I get recast. Our very flat backlot is in desperate need of some depth, so I ventured down. I decided to add a very American looking canal, probably more apt for California than Florida, but you know what? Stop picking holes in everything I do, jeez. Speaking of holes, I dug one and popped some concrete down before creating the sides out of plaster. I colour matched as best I could and copied it down the full length of the gully. I don't know if this is classed as a gully, but I didn't want to use the word canal so soon after the last time. I played around for a while to get the drainage right, but in the end I settled on 2 arched grates. So sophisticated. I boxed it all off and added some metal poles. Some more TMTK plaster finishes off the initial structure. I added a couple of colourable panels to give the illusion of darkness. It is only an illusion though, don't forget. I used dirt decals to give the effect of old watermarks on the edge of the canal. I also added some water, did you notice? In case you didn't notice, here's me popping some lily pads and other foliage on top of the water. Somewhere along the line in our fictional apocalyptic universe, some drivers ended up totaling their cars here. Such sillies. I wonder if they survived. Oh yes, they're not real. Spoiler alert, this taxi ends up being a coaster support. Rather exciting, isn't it? Suddenly, out of nowhere, a path appeared, so I figured we should turn it into a lovely bridge. I started with brownstone trim and stone fencing. I'm sure I've said this before, but I definitely wouldn't call this a fence. I don't know what I'd call it, but I'm certain a fence can't be made of stone, but then who am I to say what a fence can and can't be? Don't worry, I removed those extra columns after I covered them up with cornerstone. I'm not that reckless. After successfully copying the whole thing to the other side, I filled in the gaps with more plaster. Gotta have that dirt. All hail Fiorana. Now, our settlement has power, but it also needs water, and whilst this canal looks quite stagnant, it will have to do. I decided to create a water shop in the form of a pump house. Rather clever if you ask me. Oh, you didn't ask? Well, I told you anyway. With the shop and path placed, it was time to give it some structure. I used plenty of wood and metal here to give it that handmade vibe. For our exterior seating area, I used metal walkways and walkway railings. Plain walls are boring, so I swapped them out for some custom ones made of planks. I used wooden pillars for the entranceway and wall frame. I created a nice big viewing window using chain link fencing. Further efforts to hide the basic walls using TMTK corrugated iron and OSB chipboard. For the flooring, I just use Haunted House wooden floor panels. There's just something about covering up pathing that makes all the difference, isn't there? Trims, trims, and more trims. So this pumping station probably needs some water-related equipment, so I started with a big old water boiler using art shapes. I popped a campfire into a fire bowl and then did something really crazy. I used flipped campfires to utilise their stone base as an extension of the rockwork. Unhinged, I know. I figured they'd attempt to protect the wooden structure with some metal sheeting, *** ADF GGHJ : Sorry, my cat walked on my keyboard. I then constructed a frame for the tank using metal fencing and a cage for the whole thing using chain link. Time for the piping using, well, piping. You'll just have to imagine there's a pump somewhere in this assembly. For the roof, I evenly spaced some planks. After the water makes its way through the filtration process, it needs to be stored somewhere. I created some basic water tanks using arch shapes and chain link fencing. Time for some detailing, including an awning, some water-themed artwork, and of course, a shop sign. I called our shop the Pumphouse, straight to the point, no messing about. To attract even more guests to our lovely establishment, I added a pip shop vending machine nestled between a couple of fake ones. Time for a TMTK pass with a fire extinguisher and push point, CCTV, fire exit sign, and electrical cabinet. I then created some access for our lovely employees in the form of a door, the usual method of traversing through walls. They'll never use these though because they're ungrateful jelly beans. Now, this park needs at least one coaster, but I'm god-awful at making them, so I employed the incredible talent of Death Fears None to make me one instead. You know, the guy who crammed 12 coasters into his park for the New Park Who Dis contest? We went with an Intamin Launch style coaster, something low level and punchy that will later weave through various parts of the park. My first challenge was to hide the maintenance shed and support the lift hill. I decided to kill two birds with one bridge, a very broken bridge. The idea was to create a broken section of highway with an off-ramp for the lift hill. The majority of the structure, much like the mall itself, was made out of TMTK plaster. Thanks again, iDrone. There were a lot of different angles to play with here, but I managed to get a nice seamless finish in the end. You're allowed to be proud of me. I'm proud of me. Actually, we'll wait until I finished it, then you can be proud of me, if you like. For the highway itself, I added stone fencing and lighting, bearing in mind this would be all that could be seen from ground level. I blended the wall with the canal and added various clutter, the usual stuff. I added a lovely stone trim, but the last couple of pieces fell off, oh dear. Some access into what will be our maintenance shed via one of those magical door things. Just to warn you, I'm about to do a cliffhanger. We're only partway through this build, but you'll have to tune in next time to see this coaster completed. Can you believe it? It's definitely worth the wait though. Look, here's a clip of the POV. Wow. Catch you then.